Another part of Lightroom for Project 1. In this section of the video, we're going to be talking about contact sheets and exporting. Those are the two main things. We're also going to look a little bit at ratings here. We'll come back to ratings and more at a different point in our projects. But let's get started in Lightroom and how to actually rate an image. And so as I was going through the metal objects that I'd photographed, and this is my metal object. I've got some wood in here just as some side things, but the Kodak timer here is the main object. I went through, and as you can see down here, some of these images actually have little stars underneath them, and these are the ones that I actually thought were the better images. So I rated those images according to the way that I thought about them, one being the least. Or usually I use it for just, it's a good image, but I may want to work on it. You can also use flags to do that, but for the moment, this is just the simple way. I rated it with 1 so that I know that I like this image, or I even like this image better. This is a 2. And so I decided that I needed to make some changes to this image. So this is my favorite of these images that you can see here on the screen. So I went into Photoshop, made my changes. I brightened up the clock face a little bit, darkened down the background a slight bit, and also color corrected the background. I made some other small changes just to quickly be able to show this. Once I got that done, it's still a TIFF. So you can see down here, this is Edit TIFF. This file is that way. I'm going to actually click here on this all and make this all stars here, all 5s. And I also need to show you how to save your metadata, which I meant to do in the previous version or previous video, but I didn't get to do that. So you can rate your stars. So when I'm done, if I want, I can rate this a 4 or maybe a 5, depending on what I really think of it. And if I want to keep it as a, portfolio or something like that, I might give it a 5. If I think it's just a good image, I might rate it a 4 so that it's a completed image. I know it's completed. I've worked on it, but it's not maybe going to go in my portfolio. So depending. What I want you to do, just for practice right now, just go ahead and put a 5 on your images and rate them with a 5. Now I've got all these rated and everything, and I've went through and I've made changes to like this parts of these projects, but I haven't saved that information to the files. Now with CR2 files or your raw files, the information is going to be, you should have learned in your 164 class, that sidecar files are created when you go into Camera Raw, and a CR2 file will have a addendum file that will be right next to it called a sidecar file. That sidecar file or XMP file is going to hold all the information that Camera Raw changed on the file, and that way when you go into Bridge or whatever, you see those changes. Well, the same thing happens here in Lightroom, except it doesn't create that information. It stores it in Lightroom unless you tell it to. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit Command A on all of these images right here, and then hit Command S on the keyboard. That's going to bring up this Save Metadata to File box, and I'm going to hit Continue. What that's going to do is it's going to take and it's going to save any changes that I've made in Lightroom to these files, not to the files themselves unless they're DNGs, but they'll save out little sidecar files. And to see this, we can actually, we'll minimize this, and then we'll go over here to our drive where we've been saving this stuff and go to the VPC folder and StudioLighting and Project 1 and then to the fall off. And you'll notice now that where there's a CR2 file, there's also an XMP file that has been added in here. Now this is going to do this for this entire group here. It's just that it'll take a little bit of time for it to actually create those. So we'd come back a little later and it would actually put those in here for us because it's doing all of the files that we told it to. So it is still working on that. as it creates them and as it puts them in there. Now, sometimes if I was to go and try to close down Lightroom at this moment, what it would say is it doesn't want to shut it down because it's still setting or saving that information into the folder, the metadata information, and not to close it. So you may get that sometimes if you're making changes. Now the cool thing is I can go in and I can just select all of these images right here and do that exact same thing. I can just come down, make sure that you're in the grid mode when you do this, and then you hit Command S, or you can also go up here to the file metadata and hit Save Metadata to Files. Same dang thing. You're just telling it Command S basically, and we'll hit Continue, and you can see it's saving the metadata up here at the top. So all that information is being saved. That includes any file names that you've added in here. So all of this information right here gets stored in here. So you know your part A to your project 1, all of that information is also now saved to within the file system and not directly in Lightroom. So you actually bring this into Bridge. It's going to find that information and it's going to pull it up. If you take it into Photoshop, you can go to File Information in Photoshop. You can find that information. So that information is available now to you on all of these files, which is an awesome, great way to actually do this. So make sure you're hitting Command S after you make changes to your files. It's just like if you were trying to save anything else in Word or a Word document or whatever you want to you want to save all the time, just to make sure that all that information is saved. So make sure that you do that with these files as well. All right, so moving on to our contact sheet. So once we have our images ready here, I'm going to take them, I'm going to start with the fall off images just here to start off with. I'm going to click on that folder, Command A to select them all, and then we're going to go over here to print. And in the print module, what we're going to do is it will usually almost always pop up with US letter, like it's going to print an actual photograph. In this module, we're going to learn a little bit about this. We'll come back to this and actually do a lot with the rest of this later at another date. But for right now, just to make it simple, I want you to come over here to the template browser, and I want you to go down here to where it says Contact Sheet 4x5. There it is. And we're going to click on Contact Sheet 4x5. And what that's going to do is it's going to pop up a template that's going to take all of our photos in the film strip down here, and it's going to add it into a contact sheet. We also want to include and make sure that that our file names are included, because this is the information that I'm going to need as I do your grading. So please make sure that your file information is here so that I can grade your files, so that the information matches, or I can actually tell what files are what names. So the next step is if for some reason that these did not show up, what you would do is just scroll down here to Page, right here on the side, Page, and you can actually click to add a file name, and you would just choose file name here to add in the file numbers right underneath if they weren't to show up when you were starting this. If you would, just leave everything else in its default position here. The rest of it should be good to go, because we've used a template, a preset, basically. So we're going to leave everything else. We're going to come down here to the print job. Now, in the print job, we're going to choose under printer here, JPEG file. We're going to change the quality of this to 60. You can also type that in, so if you can't get it exact, just type in 60. And we'll just do these as sRGBs, that's fine. And we're going to print these, we're going to save these out as JPEG files. So for example, I'm going to hit print file now that that's ready. I am going to go to my, I'm going to type up here, this is going to be Wessel underscore P1 and part 1 contact sheets. So this is what we're going to type in up here. We're going to go to our contact sheets right here and folder, And if if it doesn't pop up right away, just go over here and find your drive and go to it and find contact sheets. If you didn't make a contact sheets folder already, go ahead and make one in here. You can hit new and create a contact sheets folder right here. But we've already got it made, so we're ready to go. We're going to hit save, and that's going to save that out. Preparing print job, it's done. If I minimize Lightroom now and I go in over here to my hard drive again, and I go to the folder and project 1, and I go to contact sheets, there is our very first contact sheet that we're going to make. We would do I'm going to have you just go ahead and you'll do the rest of them. So what you would do is just go back to the library here, go to part 2, select all, Command A, go to, I'm also going to do a Command S while I'm at it, and then I'm going to take these into the print job. That shows up here. I'm going to go to print file because everything's already set up and ready to go. I'm going to click on this link here and just change, because then I don't have to do a lot of typing. I'm going to choose hit part 2, and that just make sure that the title is correct and hit save. And that's now going to export my images directly into the folder, and that folder now has we'll have another contact sheet in it. Now let's do the metal here. Let's just go to metal, and here in the metal one, same exact thing. We're going to select all of them. Now there are a lot of files in here. There are 31 selected images. In the print folder here is when we come here, this is going to hold about 20 images on a page. So we've got 5 rows and 4 columns. That's 20 images. So we've got all of these images here. Notice down here it says page 1 of page 2. And we could actually scroll to the next page if we wanted to, just by using these buttons right here to see the next page. Once we have this done, it's again just as simple. We've got everything already set up. We're just going to do that. And I'm going to click here, and instead I'm going to make this part 8. And just after this, I'm going to type metal. That way, when you're turning it in, I can actually see which contact sheet is what as I do my grading. So please make sure that you fill in and save your files this way. Now what this is going to do is when it makes it's going to save those contact sheets, but it's going to make 2 of them. So if we go back, and once the print job's done there, we're going to go back to our folder here, and if we go into project 1 and into contact sheets, you'll notice that there's a new folder in here that's got just our metal files in it. So this is going to be the contact sheets for metal. And that's fine. You can just leave it this way. Don't worry about it having a new folder in there. It's just the way that it does it for you. So that is how to actually make contact sheets. Now, let's do the last part here, which is to actually export a file. So we're just going to do one file today, and you're going to actually end up doing 3 files, because you're going to do one for metal, one for cloth, and one for fur. And so I'm going to choose number 11 here. This is the file that I worked on. This is my TIFF. I can see that it's a TIFF. I'm just going to open this back up here. I realized it was closed down still. Here's my file that's a TIFF. So I go down here and I look, and there's my TIFF, and it is the file that I want to export. I want to make sure it is the only file that I'm going to be exporting. As you noticed, all of them had been selected earlier, and if I exported it, would send all 31 files to the folder, and I don't want to do that. I just want this one folder, so make sure you're only sending the one file. What we're going to do now is we're going to come down here and we're going to hit this button called Export. There is also other export options under File here. You've got Export, Export with Previous, Export with Preset, and Export as a catalog. But we're just going to be exporting this one file. So we're going to come down here to Export. And under export, if we had created some presets, we could use presets, but in this case, we don't have any presets. I'm wanting the original TIFF or whatever original file that you're working on. I want you to put it on your hard drive. So choose hard drive, and then come down here, and if it's not already selected, choose select specific folder right here. This is the one that you're going to want to put it in. And we're going to choose that folder. So we're going to have to go in and find that folder. So we're going to go to our drive and scroll down here, and there's a folder called Final Images in here. If not, make sure you're clicked here and then create a new folder called Final Images. But we've already got one made from our previous video. So we've got a Final Images folder here. I'm going to hit Choose, and that's going to tell it where to send it. We're going to also add it to this catalog. So we're going to add that file directly to this catalog. So when it goes in there, we'll actually have a duplicate of it. That's unfortunate, but we will have a secondary file that'll be added into our final images. Now this final images is only because you're giving me these projects at the end. I would probably end up just leaving this file where it is, or I would make a new folder called final image, drop that, take this and just drop it in there and leave it within the same folder here so I can find it easily. Anyway, we're going to add to this catalog, so we're going to add that image to this catalog. We are going to rename it, and we are going to give it a custom name with the original file number, and we're just going to call this Wessel underscore P1. There's not going to be much changes in the first part of this. P1. Let's see here, we're going to put part 8, and this is dash metal, and that's what we're going to put for the file name, and we're going to put final. So this is our final, and this way we can distinguish it between it and the original folder file. Because we are, I want to be able to see your work, make sure that you save this out as original. You could also hit PSD or TIFF, but for this, I want you to just hit original. Now what that's going to do is it's just going to take this TIFF file and it's going to move a copy of it directly into our final folder. Don't worry about image sizing, output, or metadata, or watermarking, or post-processing at this time. We'll look at these later on if we have a chance. So we've got all this ready. We're going to hit export, and that is exporting one file. And what we're going to do here is just minimize this, and we're just going to double check that it made it into the final folder here. So we're just going to actually go in here, and we're going to choose our project 1 and go to final images, and there's that file right there with all of the information that I need to be able to grade it. So there is how to export very quickly a file and get it into your folders. We'll be using exporting throughout the semester, along with our library and all of the and the contact sheets and everything that I've showed you so far in these videos. I hope this has been helpful as a study guide. In case these have been helpful as study guides, just in case you've maybe forgotten some of the information that I've taught you during class. These are just study guides. I may have included more information during class time, but hopefully this will help you to actually create and be creative in Lightroom and to actually start to understand how to work within the program. If you're already a big user of this, some of these may be changes that you're not familiar with. That's okay. You can learn some new things about Lightroom and different ways to approach Lightroom in general. Alrighty, well, have a good day, and thanks for watching.